guys, Constance here. Welcome back to Good Life Farm. So my voice is still not back to normal, although it's starting to get there because I noticed this morning when I was going out to do chores that when I did my kind of sing-songy voice to greet Sophie and Amos, that my voice did actually go up, which it didn't do that the other day when I was going out there. I tried to do it the other day and it was silent. My Mr. Smith looked at me and just kind of chuckled and shook his head. Yeah, I'm feeling much better. I did actually get a little bit sick the other day after I had filmed that video. Not anything awful. I mean, basically, I've got a cold. It's just, normal life. And for me personally, for, those of you who are new here, I've talked about it in the past, but I am super prone to bronchitis. Anytime I have an allergy attack, I get even the tiniest bit of a cold. If I breathe in some fumes that make me cough, every time, guaranteed, I'm going to get bronchitis. It's just how my body works, and I've learned how to deal with it. So sometimes it does mean intermittent laryngitis a little bit. So that's just my life. So what I have been doing today, since I was feeling better and feeling fine, even though my voice ain't there, is I've been inventorying my pantry. This is one of the shelving units that I built when we moved into our property here, into our homestead. This is our laundry room, which is directly off the kitchen. And our house, our house works great for us. We never wanted to get a big house for many reasons, and I've talked about that in the past. But the biggies are, this is going to be our forever home. We were thinking long term. Number one, we wanted a small price tag because, we were going to have to get a mortgage. We didn't have the ability to pay cash for a property, and we wanted to make sure that we could get the smallest payment possible and pay it off as fast as possible. And one of the reasons we did that is because we were moving from the regular, reliable military paycheck to the civilian world, which when you've been in the military or living the military life your entire adult life, stepping out into something that isn't quite as regular can be a little bit scary. And so we wanted to make sure that if something ever happened, that if Mr. Smith was laid off from his job, if my work tanked, that we would still be able to pay all of our required necessary bills with his military retirement paycheck and his VA benefits. And so we strove to make our payment as small as possible. So that is one of the reasons we wanted a smaller home. Another reason we wanted a smaller home was so that the utilities would be smaller. Bigger house, bigger heating bill. And our home is only 1,500 square feet. Very intentional, and this works great for us. But one of the challenges was storage, because the only closets in this entire house are the bedroom closets. We have no garage, which has been a little bit of an issue, so we've had to learn how to be very creative with our storage. But of course, for me, as being someone who is a canner, who likes to keep a full larder, I needed a pantry. And so this laundry room here is what I converted into basically my pantry, with the laundry over there behind you in just the corner of this little room. And so one of the very first things I did was I built shelving over here. And then about 2 years ago, somewhere around there, I kind of reconfigured all of this, made the shelving a little bit more sturdy. I also reconfigured the spacing for the shelves, and I measured the height of a classic mason jar, whether they were pints or quarts, gave them a little bit extra wiggle room in there. And then by doing that, I was able to get a lot more shelving in here without a ton of wasted space above the jars. Because when I first built the shelving, I spaced them equally apart. I think they were like 18 inches apart or something like that. And so you ended up with a bunch of dead space above the jars, and I was able to add, I think it was like 2 more shelves, which is a lot of space when you have a small home. I also raised up the bottom shelf, made it a little bit higher, so that I could store buckets down underneath there. And you can see I've got the bubbly water down there. One of my indulgent refreshments is sparkling water with cranberry juice. I think it's delicious. And so yeah, I don't drink soda, but I do like my bubbly water. But I'm able to store all of my buckets down underneath all of the shelving. And I have shelving on this wall as well as this wall. And then I have a few hooks up at the top of these shelves for hanging things kind of out of the way. Like this is my grocery bag storage tube. It's basically just a kitchen towel with elastic at the bottom. It's been sewn into a tube, elastic at the bottom with a strap to hang it from, and you just shove the bags in there. So like I said, I've been going through here inventorying today. I've been looking at how much I have left of certain things. I've been kind of consolidating shelves, taking things where I had a bunch of space and kind of moving them all together, taking all of my empty jars over on this side and filling up the shelves with all of the empty jars of the things that I have used from all of my home canned goods. Now I will say I'm also making note of some of the things that I made a ton of, or really that I made too much of, and that we're just not consuming it all. And so in the future, I know not to make that much of those particular things, like the watermelon jelly. This watermelon jelly is absolutely amazing. It tastes like a watermelon Jolly Rancher. It is astounding. I made way too much of it. We actually don't consume that many sweets. A lot of times when I make jellies and jams, I give them away as gifts. But even though I've given away a lot of the watermelon jam or jelly, I still have a lot of it. So the next time I make watermelon jelly, I know not to make that much watermelon jelly. I'm starting to get low on my canned potatoes. And, you know, I've actually had people ask me what I do with canned potatoes. They are a shortcut ingredient for me. When I'm wanting to make a quick soup, I can just toss these in. I just drain the liquid out, toss the potatoes in with the soup. I don't have to peel and dice or anything like that. They're just ready to go. But usually what I use these for are really quick mashed potatoes. I just dump the jar and the liquid into the saucepan, bring them up to a boil, let them cook for a few minutes. Then I drain out the liquid and I add in some butter, a little bit of cream, some shredded cheese. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of garlic, just whatever I want to take the mashed potatoes up a notch. We eat these all the time. We love cheesy mashed potatoes. That's kind of our favorite. And these are so much better than like a mix, you know, instant potatoes. You know, take a little bit of time, can up some potatoes, and they are a really quick shortcut when it comes to dinner time. They're especially good when you've cooked a slow cooker meal, like a roast or something like that, but you need some quick sides to throw together. That's your quick mashed potatoes right here. Now, like I said, I've been consolidating all of my empty jars over to this side so that everything that's left to be used is over here. But another thing I have over here is, these are lids. So a while back, a couple years ago, when things were very difficult, canning supplies in particular, were very difficult to get a hold of, that wasn't really something that I had to worry about too much, because I tend to keep canning supplies in stock in bulk. These are just one of those things I like to always make sure I have plenty on hand. These are your regular canning lids. These are the ones from Lehman's. I also have some from, oh gosh, an Amish supply store. And then I've also got lots and lots of the Tattlers and Harvest Guard reusable lids. And when I first started using them, I had a really hard time figuring them out until I learned the trick of putting them in fairly loose and then tightening them afterwards. And once I figured that out, I have had pretty much 100% jar sealing. I can't think of any that I've had fail in a very long time. What I did to practice that was every time I canned a batch of something, I would make 1 or 2 jars with the reusable lids, and just kind of get the hang of it. And that has worked out really well for me. And so I know that down the road, I've got plenty of canning supplies. Now, I like to have a lot of the canning supplies like that, not just for my own purpose. I mean, if there is a shortage and the supply chain is, you know, broken and you're not able to get the things that you want, I like to make sure I have that buffer, but also I'm able to help other people. You know, I have a friend who her garden was coming in like crazy and she did not have any lids. She could not find any lids anywhere. And so I was able to take from my supply and give her some to help her out. So in addition to my canned goods, my pantry, my larder in here, I also have some shelving that I built back here behind my door. Now, normally this would be dead space, that like 4 inches from the door jamb to the wall, but I utilized that space by creating this simple shelf out of some 2x4s. Basically, I just measured the distance floor to ceiling with a couple inches to spare, and then I measured the distance between the 2x4s when I put them where I needed them to be, cut some boards going the width of that, put it all together, and I attached it against the wall with some L brackets screwed into some studs. And just like that, I've got some storage space for the cleaning supplies. I also have this little mounted rack right here that holds my broom and sweeper and all of that stuff right up here against the shelving and behind the door, and just keeps everything out of the way. Oh, and so another thing that I do while I'm going through here and going through all of this is I actually inspect all of the jars and I check for any lids that may have come loose. I just give them all a little tug, make sure everything is still sealed while I'm going through and inventorying and doing the count and everything. You know, sometimes that happens. You do your canning, all of your jars seal, but sometimes you'll have a jar that gives you a false seal and it seems like it's together, but then when you put it in your pantry a few weeks later or a couple months later, you realize it has actually come loose. And that's why it's always really important when you take a jar off the shelf to test that lid before you even open it up. Make sure you've still got a seal before you consume it. So that is just something that I think is very important to do. So like I said, when I come through here and I'm inventorying everything, I check the lids in the process and make sure everything's still good, because the last thing you want to do is find a science experiment in your larder. Now, even though I'm taking off this year, or rather this summer, from gardening, I'm still going to be doing lots of food preservation. I'm really going to be focusing this year, I think, on meals in a jar, things like meal starters, soups, things that make for really quick meals later on, like the Sloppy Joe mixture that I shared for Canuary. We are already down to 2 jars of this because we have consumed it, but also I shared some with my son and daughter-in-law, and it has been a humongous hit. I'm going to be doing a lot more of that, and I'm going to be doing, like I said, more of the meal prep or easy meal types of canning. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, so the big buckets that I have down underneath the shelving are filled with dry goods such as sea salt, sugar, rice, brown sugar, sucanat. I've also got grains like rye and einkorn. I've got some big tubs of baking powder, just all of those things that you might need to run to the store for and, you know, find yourself out of. I try to keep those kinds of things in bulk. And some of my buckets are actually vacuum sealed, and they will stay good for years and years and years as long as they are vacuum sealed until I rotate them out to begin using them. Now, if you would like to learn more about the storage that I have in here, not only this shelving, the utility shelving, and my can rack that I made, I have a video where I show a more thorough tour of how I built those, and I will put a link to that down below. So thanks for hanging out with me here in my pantry. My name is Constance at A Good Life Farm, and I'll talk to y'all next time.